Why is there a red button next to Nick? Recording.
Did I? Sure.
Is it 7?
Yep.
It's 7 on the button.
It's 7 o'clock and I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. Next item is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. We just need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 21st as presented.
Second?
Motion's made by Matt and seconded by Cynthia to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now is the portion open to public comment for anything that's not already on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, we'll come to it as we get on through. But anybody on the call or in the room that has any comments? Okay. New business, Green Mountain National Forest update.
Yeah, hi, I'm Cynthia, and you remember members of your on select board. This is Chair Dan Harvey, Jamie Paston, Glenn Sherman, Matt Bukowski, and this is Martina and Stacy from Green Mountain National Forest.
What would you like us to say?
You can stand right behind me.
We're
That's
right
fine.
here.
or-
Is it okay?
Yeah, that's good. Right there, Steve.
All right, well, we won't take up too much of your time, but thought it'd be good to give a quick update on just some of the activities happening in Arlington. But yeah, Stacy, I'm the district ranger, so work in the office in Manchester on 11:30 and, yeah, Stacy's trying to.
The timber manager.
So we just have, we're gonna leave this map with you, so that you can do whatever you want with it, but it gives a.
We hang maps.
Yeah.
We like
Yeah,
hanging
it seems like you like that,
Yeah.
yeah. So really just wanted to touch on the two primary activities happening in Arlington, which is Cynthia, you're very well versed in the Taconic Gateway or Murray Hollow project. That land acquisition is, well, currently the land is owned by the Conservation Fund. And the update from Sally Manikian, who works for the Conservation Fund, is that there was a timber sale on the Murray Hollow side, which is wrapping up. They're working with Trout Unlimited on a bridge culvert.
Culvert, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so you're aware of that following the completion of the timber sale. And I think it's just cleanup at this point with the timber sale. And I know that I've been on calls with Nick, the previous town administrator, and Sally and I to talk about access for parking that won't clog up the town road. And so I guess I don't have any new information about that, but maybe having I don't know if it's Cynthia, would be you to just maybe have further conversations
Yeah.
about that as we move forward. 'Cause the reality is you may have noticed if you've turned on the news lately that the federal government is, there's a lot of change happening. And so that impacts our forest as well. And so we've lost some staff, including, we're going to be losing our forest surveyor and someone who was on our land staff, last week. So this is all a long way of saying that the speed at which some of these projects are going to be completed is going to be slower, because we don't have the staff to get the projects through. So, I'm just mentioning that because it's not only because of the staff, but just the process that's to work through. But the survey was completed for that was like one big thing, but we have to have a U.S. Forest Service surveyor review the survey that was done by private individuals. So that's kind of where we're at now with the Forest Service acquisition of the Taconic Gateway parcel. But so it's probably, I hate to guess a timeline, but it's going to be a couple of years still, but I'm guessing realistically, given all that's going on or not going on with the federal government right now. So I'm guessing it'll be 2 at the like at a minimum years before it becomes national. Forest. So there's time to work through these issues. So do you have any questions about the, yeah?
So I just think, I totally understand, and even without recent changes, these things take time. But I think that what would be good is if we could work a little bit on the access issues and any other outstanding issues so that whenever things do move, they can move and then don't have to stop because we haven't resolved that. So I'd like to, be in touch with you and have a phone conversation or email exchange where we kind of try to lay out what's remaining to be done from our perspective and try to line that up of what has to be done. And if possible, do some of it. If not, at least we know what needs to be done, in order to, make this happen.
Definitely, yes, and I think, in a way, it's maybe a silver lining that we have a little extra time and I can get in touch with Sally, so maybe you, me and Sally can get on a call and
Sounds good.
lay it out and then
Yeah.
we'll have a
Yeah.
meeting.
And I can always come up to you. I mean, are you based in Manchester?
Yeah.
I can always come up there. I mean, so, that'd be good.
Okay.
And can I ask on the map, what's the lower?
That's next.
That's,
That's
he's
me.
gonna talk about the grass mountain too.
I'm sorry, getting a seat.
No,
We
no,
love
I just
maps. I
wanted to-
like maps,
No, So yeah, go ahead if anybody's got any questions for Martina before we get to my little part of it.
No, so the parking issue was the Benedict Hollow side, correct?
Yes,
Because the other side is all access from Murray House.
right, right. And much as I'd like to reach into New York State and control what they do, we actually can't.
Anybody else have any questions on that before I move on to the timber sale? So at the very bottom, right here.
You want to hang that on that?
Oh.
Those hooks right there.
Well, that'd be even better.
That might be easier for you.
Without anything else falling down if I do it.
Yeah, you just have to, there you go.
Alright. So this is where I get to have my fun. So here's, Shaftesbury and Arlington. So right here on the boundary is, we have a timber sale called Grass Mountain. And it's gonna be accessed off the Shaftesbury Hall Road. But you can see as we move up a little bit, some of the sale is in Arlington. This sale is part of the
Oh, I see.
early successional habitat project, and it's purely for wildlife. But this is where the other part kicks in, is like, to make it suitable for wildlife, some trees have to be removed. Well, a lot of trees have to be removed in these openings. That's why we make it a timber sale. But the reason why this timber sale is for wildlife. It's been identified that there is a lack of early forest habitat for migratory birds, especially songbirds. So these are temporary openings. So we picked some areas where there's, where we could probably put some of those in, and that's one of them. So, but right now, Rough Grouse Society is helping us on this sale. They've actually bought it, and they're gonna contract all the work themselves. So it's like a stewardship, we call it. So, like all the access is gonna come off the Shaftesbury Hall Road. And I think we have one more comment period on it, right?
Yeah, yep.
So, so once we get everything back up online on our end, if anyone would like to comment on the sale itself, you can, call in or write in a comment. I don't know how we're gonna do it. It's gonna be a call, or is it gonna be?
Yeah, I think, our staff will be sending out a note to just like a key interested local individuals. So that's sort of the second comment period is not a requirement of NEPA, of our normal environmental review. Just there was a lot of public interest in this project. And this overall, this early successional habitat project. So we agreed to be totally transparent, and we even offered a field trip out there. So we took.
We've done that.
We've done that. So we've been trying to really just, a lot of it is about educating the public who may not be supportive of timber sales at all, to just try to educate that this is not about making a profit. It really is about improving the habitat, making the forest healthier for.
And the other thing that we really stress a lot on, especially on the field trips, is, you might read an environmental project is 73,000 acres. Well, that's all of the whole area, whether it's Forest Service or private land or whatever, we have to say in the area. And like, let's say they start out as 600 acres, we're down to just a couple hundred by the time we're done. You have to go out, and you have to take out all your streams, your wetlands,
Mhm.
heritage, we said stone walls everywhere, it's like almost as bad as back up in Maine, where you go. But, so there's, just to kind of show people that, this is not like willy-nilly. There's a lot of science that goes into this, and a lot of work in the field, everybody knows.
And, if and when you guys did purchase the Taconic Gateway acreage, this is the kind of timber management you'd be doing there, where yes, you'd be cutting timber, but it would be in order to manage, feed species for wildlife, mass species or
Or
songbird
forest health.
habitat, or forest health, or whatever, and you would be cutting, but it wouldn't just be clear cutting, it would be cutting for a purpose. Or if you were clear cutting, it would be because you were creating a clearing. I mean, I've heard of creating a clearing and leaving like nursery trees, like of species that you
We call
really
it
want.
shelter wood,
Shelter
where
wood,
you leave
okay.
just enough trees, if you want sugar maple back, they like
Then
a
you
little
leave
bit
it,
of
yeah,
shade. But
yeah.
if you want like paper birch back, well, you can have a little more.
Okay.
somewhat, what I mean, so there's two of them, you
Okay.
have to leave wildlife trees and, long streams and so like, let's say, clear cutting is a tool, but it's like in this forest, we are restricted to 30 acres, and it is rare that we get close to that.
And is the practice now to leave the brush, so that it protects the seedlings coming up? Because it used to be you kind of got rid of it, and now it seems like people are leaving it. Is that?
Well, that, first of all, there's not a biomass market down here in this part of the state.
Okay,
The other is that almost all the nutrients in the tree are in the fastest growing parts of the tree, which are the limbs and the twigs. And so by leaving that on site, you're leaving all those nutrients. And the secondary one is that, it does protect the seedlings, but it also, protects the ground. If you go out and actually look at like a timber sale where they have a skid road, for a skidder, they'll put a bunch of that slash down and they'll protect the ground, keep it from being impacted as much.
okay.
But yeah, so we leave all the slash and try to spread it around equally.
I hadn't thought about the nutrient aspect. That's
I mean,
interesting.
it's not in the bowl of the tree, but that does, it gets bigger, but it's
Yeah.
like, but it's like everything else, like the fastest growing part of anything is where the nutrients
Nutrients
are.
are,
And
yeah.
also the limbs and the leaves.
Okay,
So
excellent.
leaving those on site.
Yeah. So, and that, I think the plan is for that timber sale to be sold this year.
It is, we're short staffed as always. We've been, I've been in timber for 20-something years, and everywhere I've gone, we've been severely short staffed, no matter where. So that's why it's good to have rough grouse out there, but we may not get this out this year. That's our.
But it's good to know about this and to have the map, because if we get anybody who hunts up there or does anything up there and they're like, what is
Yeah.
going on? We can tell them. what's
No,
going on.
exactly. If they have any questions about right of ways or how to get in there, or what does the Forest Service own, how are we doing things? And,
Yeah.
we're gonna close up all the temporary roads. There's a lot of roads out there already.
Yeah.
That we're gonna use for hauling on. They're gonna get rocked off. And so like a spot that they used to go may not, for erosion purposes, may not be available as much anymore, especially the ATV side. But yeah, if people have any questions, you have Martina's information, they can get a hold of me, but.
Sure.
And if somebody's out there, they see somebody, Forest Service, or her name is Melly, she's got her own vehicle and she's got a little sign on, said who she is, have them stop and ask. We like talking about our work.
Mhm.
I know I do.
Mhm.
Thank you for the information.
Sure. And could I just ask that each of you sign in on the sign-up
Yes.
sheet? And in fact, everybody at some point had to sign in for Janet, who's keeping the minutes. If they just could get your names there, that's what we need. And,
Thanks for the
we'll be in
time.
touch.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the highways. Truck, other items. Go ahead, Mark, if you've got stuff.
As we know, this is the
Bye.
first time
Bye.
from myself being at the town to order a new truck. So I've gotten one price from ATG over the mountain in Westminster. I have another price coming from Mowbray, Allegiance truck. How many prices do I have to get for the truck? 2 or 3?
2 or 3, I'm sure is fine.
Okay,
Comparable.
and then also the equipment that goes on it. The dump bodies, plow sander, that stuff. I've already talked to Mike Murray from Viking. He's the only one left in the state doing it. There's one in, is it Steventown where his wax is? There's Frank's Wax down in Steventown. I can try to get a price from them. The guy from Delivery or Allegiance Truck said that he was gonna try to get me a price from, I think it was TNT. So, I'd really like
And
to
if
stay
they're on
with,
Sourcewell, you can get.
what's that?
If the Sourcewell price, that's state contract
Mhm.
pricing, so.
Yeah, I'd like to stay with the Viking product. Not so much because it's in state. The truck that we're going to trade is a 2015. It was probably put in service. It was built in January, so it was probably put in service either the end of 15 or early in 16. And the dump body has yet to have really any touch up done to it. Their paint holds up extremely well, and there's no rust damage on the dump body yet. So, you know, and I've seen Zwack sells Everest bodies, and I've seen them completely rotted out in 8 years. So, you know, I'm really impressed with their, and he explained their paint process to me. And they do 2 different stages of primer. It never sets outside from the time that they start their paint process to the time that they finish their paint process. So it doesn't get any moisture. It's always in a, you know, environment controlled. So, but I have a price from him, try to get a price from somebody else. The ATG is still working on a trade-in price. And I talked to the gentleman, Blake from Allegiance, and he said by the end of this week, he'd have me a price for the truck and the trade-in. So that's the truck. Warmbrook Road South project. I was gonna change culverts this week, but as we all know, it's supposed to rain all week, so last minute, last week, I decided to put it off a week. Sandgate's gonna help us, so we can get it done quicker, and they're kind of behind too, a week. I'll hold off for them, would make life a lot easier. I've talked to 2 different paving companies so far about doing a reclamation where it's ground up and put back in place and then pave over. Do I need to get 3 prices on that or 2?
If you can get 2 good ones, I'm sure that satisfies our
Okay.
internal spending policy.
And as to what price do I need to get a sealed bid or not? There must be a price threshold where it has to be. And Cynthia might be able to find that for me tomorrow.
It should be in our purchasing policy. Were you talking, is it Viking, is it?
Viking,
Size.
Convey.
There's a
Surveys,
threshold, I'm just
their
not
Sourcewell
sure.
price, they have a state contract.
Yeah.
So, I think in our purchasing policy, it says either 3 or state contract
Right.
pricing, because that's already the best negotiated rate typically.
He actually met me at ATG and we sat down at the desk there and discussed what we would want for,
Yeah.
you know, and it's basically almost the same as what we have, except for the dump body would be a side dump instead of a tub body. The tub body has 2 different bed chains where the side dump only has 1. And the side dump is, because it's a square shape instead of a rounded, it's actually lower to hold the same amount of capacity. So that's what and it's what Shasbury is using now. Bennington uses a side dump, so that's what we're pricing there.
Go ahead.
So I have an answer on that, according to my notes. Up to $10,000, you would want 2 quotes if possible. And the town administrator can approve for purchases typical of the government, so not anything bizarre. But over 10,000, you have to do the sealed bid.
So it has to be a sealed bid. Okay. And that's no problem. I can.
And I've got information about it.
Okay. On Warnbrook Road. And I don't know, I didn't get a chance to look in the book from the state. there's, I believe 7 or 8 culverts. I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a couple of them that are close together, and I could omit one and get that water to go to the next one. Is that something that would be okay with the board? I don't, to me, there's not much water runoff to them. So running, you know, so there's one right in front of Nick's house on the north side of Maple Hill that gets hardly any water. And I can ditch that right to the next one to the north, which is only maybe 100 feet. You know, so it's not very far. And then
I
there's
think
another,
there's 5 north of Maple Hill.
what's
I
that?
think there's 5 of
There's
them
5
north of
north
Maple
of
Hill.
Maple Hill.
Yeah.
There's 3 in front of Bullock's house.
Yeah.
If I, that's the right.
Yeah,
pronunciation.
it is.
There's 3 there, one on each end of their property and one right in the middle. And then there's one just to the south of Maple Hill. And then there's another one in front of where Mike Pike used to live, where Roberta lives, that is not on any map. And I was told from Roberta that apparently years ago that the highway foreman at the time and Mike got in a little bit of a tussle back and forth, and they come home one day and there's a culvert right in the middle of it. And when it does flow water, it ponds their whole front lawn. So, and I went there with the transit and did some shooting, and there's no problem at all with water hitting from there to the next culvert down, which is not, again, you know, 100 feet.
So not having that.
I don't want to put that one back in because it's not on any map that I can find. It's not on the Vermont culvert map. It's not on any of the maps that we
The
have.
inventories is that.
No, none of the inventories. So.
I would say there, use your best judgment.
Okay,
Is there any reason why you should ask Jim Henderson or something?
I was thinking of calling Jim.
I mean,
just to
cause like
ask him.
I might
I
just touch base.
I don't even know if there's like rules about how many we're supposed to have or whatever, you
Yeah.
know. But I would wonder about touching base with Jim.
Yeah,
But
And if you can consolidate the culverts while still maintaining a good flow and not interfering with somebody's driveway or something like
Right.
that. And if it doesn't work, we can always go ahead and put a culvert back in,
Yeah.
it's just that
the,
then you mess up the paving.
the one that's on the north side of Maple Hill, that's actually Nick's lawn, on the edge of his lawn. The way the lawn comes down, it's so steep, and then it has to get steeper to get into the
ditch.
culvert.
Yeah.
The grass can't even grow on it because it's basically a vertical, you know, so by getting that water to go to the next one, it won't have that we can't manage with vegetation. And then there's a dead apple tree in between the two, and I talked to the lady that owns that, and she said that no problem with it, even though it's in our right of way. I stopped to ask her about
Yeah.
taking it down, and she said no problem at all.
Good.
And there's another maple tree that's dead there in the stone wall, and I said that it wasn't very big. I said we can take that down too while we're right there. So, Andy got his CDL a couple of weeks ago,
Excellent.
so,
Good.
he should be able to, I believe
Mhm.
that was when he got his CDL.
Yeah. He gets a bump, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he
So that
texted,
should go in whatever the next payroll.
right, and then, he texted me tonight, he got his regular one, his first one was
Yeah.
just a paper.
Yeah.
So I'll have him stop and have Janet
But
photocopy.
that
it,
was
so-
pre-approved, so
Right,
it should just
right.
go right in.
Right, I just want to make sure that everybody knew about it.
Just to make sure payroll.
Yeah.
enters that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Just make sure they
Yeah.
enter it right the first time.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I know when I purchase things, I have like a $1,500 price limit. But the way inflation's been and the way the parts have been running, that I was calling Nick like every other week saying, hey, I might be buying a part that's over $1,500. Is that okay? And of course, he always said
We
yes.
might have to update our policy with the numbers that are in the places for
That's,
inflation.
you know, and like Cynthia and I spoke about it this morning,
Mhm.
that, you know, if I can't get a hold of her and I need that part to get something back going, you know, it's
Yeah.
not like it's just buying something to set on the shelf, it's something to get
Right.
a machine back going, so, if you can, you know, discuss that.
Why don't you, if you have a sense of where you think the number should be
Mhm.
for that low end stuff? Maybe.
Yeah, and what you've been calling Nick
What
about,
you
was
been
it
calling
2,000
him
or
about?
2,500?
Most have been around 2,500 bucks.
That's what
Because
I
I
was
believe it
thinking.
was 15 and that's.
It was
probably
15.
It was 15,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was a number of years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably been,
And,
Seven or eight
and now we
years.
have tariffs coming, so.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna touch base real quick on the blacktop plan that I've been trying to come
I
up
was
with.
hoping you were.
I actually have a quote here. I talked to I talked to Dan Deerstein from Peckham, and I talked I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, from Springfield Paving. And they both agreed with what my idea was. We have 8 miles of blacktop roughly.
Mhm.
If we could do an 1.5 inch overlay on a 1/2 mile every year, in 16 years, we'd come back to the original spot. They both agreed that 15 years is about the right time when you're gonna wanna do it, between 10 and
Which
15,
road you're talking.
exactly.
Sounds
Between,
like a warm road, maybe not, but redoing that whole
Right,
thing, we know
right.
we gotta do that.
so a 1/2 mile of, Dan actually he sent me a quick quote, a 1/2 mile, 1.5 inch thick, 22 feet wide is, $58,443 put in place. That's without any planing, or that's just come in
That's a 1/2 mile.
as a 1/2 mile.
1 mile used to. start-
Yeah, well, and
So it's double.
I asked the gentleman from Springfield Paving, and he did the numbers real quick and on his calculator, he said, that's real close,
Mhm.
for what he would charge as well.
Sure.
So, I know what we've been putting away, we're gonna have to up it if we decide to do that. And I know Jamie and I have spoke about maybe adding some more blacktop in different spots in town, but we really need to, we've been not keeping up with the blacktop.
We're behind.
We're behind, and we really need to take care of what we have
Before
before
we
we
do,
add
yeah.
any more. I'd love to add some, we've talked back and forth, but then you're talking 4 inches of blacktop. Where 1.5 inches is $60,000. And hopefully at some point, the town could afford to do, some of that stuff, but for right now, I think that we really need to take care of the infrastructure we have.
Totally agree.
So, and I'm still waiting to hear, I need to call Patrick from V-Trans. I'm not sure when the paving grants go out. So I know we've applied for one.
We
I don't
apply
know.
for one every year.
Right.
That big one.
But it's been 3 years since we've gotten one, so I'm hoping that we get one this year. That'll help with the Warren Brook project.
I'm
because-
assuming you have that number one priority.
That is the number one priority.
So should I be in touch with Patrick? Check in with him?
I can,
You got-
I
you
got
can do
it.
that? Okay.
I got it.
That's Patrick Wilson.
I did get one price so far from Springfield Paving on the project. Just to know, I told him, I said, I know it's probably gonna have to be a sealed bid, but I said, if you can just kind of give me a ballpark so that I know if I got money enough or not.
Mhm.
So, plus Dan wants to see what's under the blacktop now to give us other options and to maybe upgrade the road more when we do the reclamation. There is a process where they can inject cement actually into it when they're grinding it and putting it back down. It's not really building it up, but it helps hold it together.
Mhm.
So, as soon as I get to start doing the culverts, I'm gonna do them next week where they're farming them out.
Biggest
And-
problem over there is it's on top of snow.
And he said that cement injection works really well with clay and mud,
That's good.
underneath, so. When I know more about that, I'll let you know, I think that was the bottom of my list.
Okay.
Want to update us on the culvert?
Oh, that one over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lake Arlington by the food shelf, we had to pump again this morning. And so I spoke with Vermont Railway about getting access to the railroad tracks. And we were gonna try with a fire truck to try and flush it again. And then it pumped down by noon, by a little after noon, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna start digging the culvert back. I spoke with the landowner and he didn't have a problem with it. At least trying to get back to where the major issue is so that,
Starting
if we
from the
get-
outflow
yes.
back.
So in case we do get the 3 inches of rain they're calling for in the next couple of days, we won't have to continue pumping. So I've gotten back about 45 feet so far.
Then a third.
No, not quite half. So the first 20-foot culvert was in great shape. The second one, were you there still when I pulled it?
No, I saw the second long one or
Yeah.
the 5-footer?
No, the second long one.
No, I didn't. Oh,
So when I got that, the top of it looked fine, other than it had a little dent in it. But when I got it out, the whole bottom was like this the whole way and it had a big hole in it. So I don't know yet. I mean, if it rains hard tonight, we still may have another lake tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because there may be something else,
There-
you know.
And about 20 feet farther back, when I drove in with the rubber tired excavator, I sunk in one spot. And that's about where the next coupling is.
So there might be,
Then I got a
Water
feeling,
leaking
yeah,
out, yeah.
and the last 20 feet that I took off, the two culverts
It shifted.
were shifted. They weren't even lined up with one
Yeah.
another. So
That would have created blockage.
I'm
in
gonna
itself.
at least get to the road
Yeah.
and have everything new from there out
Yeah.
toward to the railroad tracks
Yeah.
by the end of the week. I had to
Okay.
take his apple tree down and I told him that we would, you know, at some point this year, we would decide when the best time to plant a new tree is.
Probably.
And probably in the
that's
fall.
what I was thinking, but that they,
But,
that we
but
would make that
we can talk
commitment.
to a nursery and maybe even have a nursery come and put it up or whatever.
Yeah.
I told him, you know, if he wants, if now it's a crab apple tree, I said, if you want a real apple tree, you decide what you want and then it'll be put back there. So,
So you do have water main that runs right down through
They
there,
got a water
about
main
6 feet in.
Yeah,
Be careful of that,
Yes.
yeah, Josh
because
stopped,
that's fairly new.
Josh stopped and there's a water line there. I said, yeah.
You can see the shut off. You can see the shut off in the driveway.
Yeah, and we might wanna see if we could put whatever tree that gets planted, like,
Away
Well,
from
he
it.
doesn't,
Far enough for
he doesn't own very much more. That little
Oh.
bit,
No.
little triangle piece is owned,
Okay,
by the guy across the street
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Jamie's uncle's old house.
okay.
it.
So,
All right, well, we'll do.
but yeah, it'll be right
Yeah.
in that area.
but if we get a new culvert, it sounds like you're gonna end up with,
Eventually, before the end of the
Yeah.
summer, it'll be all brand new right across the road, but
Yeah.
at least by the end of this week, it'll be from the blacktop to
Right.
the railroad will be on them.
Right, and, I did mention to Mark, I mean, the apple tree issue is important, and also that when the work is finished, that the seeding be done and
Mhm.
everything, that every time we do
It'll be all
anything,
raked and
the
seeded.
landowner is, you know, and if the landowner has a problem, they can come
Mhm.
back and we'll take it up again, so.
When you were talking to Josh, are the new water lines above or below the culvert height?
James Holly stopped and he said he helped, his stepfather, Brent, put that water line in, and he said he remembered tunneling underneath the culvert,
Okay,
put the water in.
I was thinking it probably was deeper, but.
Yeah.
If you went over.
And
the
I'm
top,
gonna use my, because it's very deep right now where I'm at. So I'm gonna use my laser and hopefully it won't have to be quite as deep, but if it does, but.
Okay. Fun,
Sounds
fun,
good.
fun.
Anything else for Hannah? Keep us posted. All right, next item is the Arlington Rec Park, work on the building, the concession stand and other. I believe Todd's here for some of that.
and I actually made paper copies just in case. I can't share the screen. Oh, no.
Very cool.
Wow. When did I do it?
You're not just here for the town administrator.
I'm not here for that at all. I'm here for the soccer club.
Would you like to put in an application?
Nope.
We've been working on him over here, don't worry.
Still have many months until I.
We have an abundance of applications.
It's good, right?
Matt, do you have any?
Yeah,
We're
we're
going
going
to-
to help
yeah,
you.
we're going to the negotiating.
So I've got the document
Got it
here
right there.
and I went like.
No, you don't, you're gonna do it from
Doesn't
here.
compare.
So, that to
You just
here.
didn't count.
And we're gonna say.
Oh, all right.
More.
There can be.
Share.
Can you share for that?
Yeah, here. Then we're gonna select
Well, no,
this one right here, yeah.
Entire screen.
Oh, yeah, and share here. Oh,
Whoa, oh,
There it
there
is.
you go.
Wasn't
And then
that
we
neat?
can
and then I
pull
can
that up a little bit.
Okay,
And
so I'll
what we
stay
can
over here.
do is
Shrink it a little bit. There we go.
There you go.
That's good. Okay, and there's that.
The floor is yours, Todd.
Great, so, yeah, I'm here on behalf of the Arlington Soccer Club, which will, here very soon be the, Arlington Area Athletic Association. We are asking the town with a conversation and hopefully grant us permission to construct a new concession stand along with some storage at the Arlington Rec Park for the current trailer and storage and mats and everything is sitting outside. We want to build this, be a legitimate building that looks very nice, that matches, what we have there for decor. You'll see that, the top right-hand corner would be just like a concession area where they serve drinks and candy bar. There would be to your left, which is kind of in, white. It's just an open roof area that is then connected to just a storage area where we would store sporting equipment, soccer balls, track and field mats, hurdles, all those types of things that go there. We think the trailer is at its nearing its end of life.
Doesn't owe us anything.
It does not. It's been there a very long time. We've tried to patch it along, but
It's time.
it doesn't look very good there anymore, and we would like to clean it up and make it nice. We would, of course, file the permits, and as needed. We've already had some of those conversations, but I wanted to make sure that I had select board approval to move forward for this before we got too in depth.
Now, refresh my memory, where is this gonna be
This
located?
would be at the southeast corner of the parking lot.
Okay,
So we
That's
would
what
be
I thought.
elevated about.
in the
Right field of the,
yeah,
That was my
right
first
field line of the
question.
softball field,
You know,
right there in the corner.
And there's
Parking
the
lot.
trailer, and that's where the,
On the
like,
trailer and
parking
everything is
area
there.
itself.
tarp covering
Yeah.
stuff right now and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Makes sense to have it up because of the floodplain, so.
But you would need, electrical, would you need
yes,
water?
sir.
There,
The
You
electrical
don't need
there,
water. I
you
mean,
don't need water?
No, the only thing that we use water for would be fill up a bucket or some canisters.
Are you cooking in the concession?
Only, no cooking inside. We do no cooking inside.
Okay.
We use grills on the
Okay.
outside.
Okay, so you got the electricity, you don't need the water, you don't need the septic, you have the facilities in the park.
Yep.
There's no dishes being done.
That was my question, yeah.
Nothing like that.
Yeah, all that stuff gets brought home. That's somebody.
Yep. somebody takes it home every night.
You know, our hope, I know that there's, based on what I'm reading, there's some requirements in elevation that we can put it on a slab. If we have to put it on piers, we'll put it on piers. We'll do whatever is required by the zone. DBA. We'll do it, but needs your permission to even go forward and explore this even more.
Anybody have any objection?
Do you need a letter?
I don't think so. I think that, if someone from the ZBA has questions, they'll ask you. Whether or not.
I don't have any.
It could be in
concerns.
the minutes, it
It'll
could
be
be
in the minutes, so it'll be fine, because it'll be
Yeah,
in the
just a
record.
sense of the board without objection.
I mean, I think it'll
Or
look
you
way,
wanna make a
it'll look
motion,
really
that's fine.
good and it'll look way better than the
Yeah.
trailer there, I mean, it adds to the value of having that park and those facilities available.
Would this be something that you would be, obviously be using for your own events, but would you be renting it to other people?
We wouldn't rent it, but if somebody, Lions will want to use it, because we've allowed the Lions to use it. We're open to all that. If someone from softball wants to be in the next, by all means, we can certainly welcome that. People on town property, technically, it would be owned by the town. So, even though we would pay to build it and build it,
Okay, so that's an important point, because eventually it would have to be on the town insurance. it's actually owned by the town.
If it's on town property.
Yeah, we
And
probably
so
have to
that's,
add that.
Yeah, I mean, not a big
But
deal,
it's not a
just,
big-
I'm
Big
just
deal.
trying to think, of it.
Probably
It's not
fits
like a
under the
trailer
umbrella
that's,
anyway.
It's a
I know, but-
utility building.
yeah,
Yeah.
but a trailer is movable, and so, you know, but this is a building, and so it would belong to the town, so. I would like it to be reflected in the minutes, that, so I wanna make a motion, so it's gonna be in the
That's
minutes.
fine.
I make a motion to approve the plan for the park concession stand for the Arlington Recreation Park as presented by Todd Wilkins.
I'll second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Matt to approve the plan presented by Todd Wilkins for the rec park concession stand. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Excellent.
You've got your, go ahead.
I'll keep you up to date.
Yep, thank you.
Then we have a couple of other park things, just real quick, we have, thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
So we have, an additional permit, for the same organization that's doing the duck derby. They filed an additional permit to do, they already have a permit for the duck derby, they already paid the fee. They filed an additional permit because they want to do additional activities later in the day. And, the question was whether they needed to pay the fee again, and, neither Willie nor I felt like we could make that decision. We don't think they should have to pay the fee again. It's their second permit for additional events, but all within the context of the same event. So, so I said, same day, yeah, it's the same event, same day. So I said I needed to bring it to the board because I didn't feel comfortable waiving the fee.
So if they put all the information on the original.
Yeah, it's just, it would have been under the,
one fee. So
it's just,
this
this
is really
is
an
second,
amendment.
it's
to the
really an
original.
addition or whatever,
Sounds like
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the case.
So-
To the original.
yeah, okay,
So,
okay,
Yeah, I
so,
think it's an amendment.
okay. Okay, no fee, okay, good job. And then the other thing I had down was work on the building, because I remember at one of the times we were gathered here together, you guys were talking about the work on the building and the necessary schedule and what has to happen when. And, I probably have something written down
Oh,
somewhere,
that building.
I'm sorry, that,
No, I'm
that,
just slow.
not
tonight.
Todd's
It's okay.
building, which doesn't exist yet, on it's
The old,
On our
office
bathroom,
and
on
Yeah,
the
the
bathhouse,
Bathrooms.
the
Yeah.
bathhouse
Yes.
office.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
I've got a couple things here. So, as you know, we had been trying to heat it and we had some issues with the heating because the pipes, run through the attic area, which is not insulated or anything else. I was able to get John Bashy down. He looked it over, to bring the pipes down, and because there's so many drops, it's gonna take quite a bit of work. He gave us a price. He went over the whole thing with Willie, because it comes down in 7 different spots or something like that. So to get it down below into the heated areas all the time, was $1,935.
that could be a lot worse.
I don't even think that was that bad.
I didn't think it was bad at all.
For plumbing?
Not for what, not for that. And then, so there's that. And then also with the building, but, a little bit different because this incorporates the playground. I did get we have a pole down there to be installed, for a light on the front corner closest to the parking lot. And we got a price from Randy to put an RAB floodlight on the pole, which means that we need to dig a channel from where the power went for when it was a volleyball court. We've got to dig a channel from there to that front corner. And if I can get Mark to come down with a excavator, probably take him a half hour and he'll be done. So this price includes Randy digging it by hand, which will definitely be considerably lower if we have Mark do it. But that is running conduit, putting a junction box where it is currently, putting everything underground and then up the pole, and also putting a timer on the building and tying it in so that the light is on a timer and not on all night, so on and so forth. His price there was $29.80.
But that included ditching.
That included the ditching. So he didn't say how much he thought would come off of that, but it's gonna be pretty considerable, I would
I don't
assume.
think so.
Because they're not digging it by hand.
I don't think so.
Ditching, yeah, that's the, I don't want to do it.
unless he's dug down there with a hand shovel, he would not want to dig that.
No, I know.
Yeah.
A lot of
I think that's kind of what he
There's
figured
a lot
here.
of
So.
stones about this big
Yeah.
between where power is
Yeah.
and where the power wants to go.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and don't we have to call dig safe down there too because of the,
But, I don't
There's,
think it'd be a bad idea either.
well, there's a, old AT&T long lines that runs through the park. Coax.
I'm not sure exactly where they.
I don't know exactly where it is, but there's two AT&T
They'll
long
know.
lines cables that
Dig
run
safe
through
will
there.
know for sure.
Yeah,
That'll be,
those are kind of
diligence.
decommissioned, but they still like
oh, yeah.
hold on to those.
Would they be up front where the power lines are?
They're huge
No,
coax
there's,
cables.
my guess is it's somewhere. There's a box at the end of the entrance before you actually spill onto the parking lot. There's a
Mhm.
box there.
Yeah.
And what side of the parking lot those go on?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
but they run across, because then those continue down and they go
It was
up.
like Randy said, he's
Over
only got to
Red
be a
Mountain.
foot deep.
So, what deep
That's
is code?
yeah.
Really? Okay. I thought it was
Because it's
deeper
all
than that.
conduit.
Oh, because he's putting the liquid tight.
It's only 110, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not running 277 over there.
No.
But it would probably be good to make sure that we
I
dig
would-
safe that,
Because I just don't know
Yeah, 'cause
exactly
those are
which way that
not
runs.
like little coax cables, those are those
No,
whole
those are the
big
old
long
big
lines.
ones.
Yeah, they go up to the top of Mount Eagle.
Yeah. And they wouldn't like their towers. Out,
They use them anymore, but they still
they're
are.
not using them up there anymore?
They don't
Wow.
use those.
I'm
but
surprised they
they-
leave them up.
So those are the two prices, so I just need to know, what you guys want to do with that so that we can.
Were we
move
talking
forward on that.
about something
and-
to insulate up?
So I had mentioned maybe we could talk to the energy committee about, a grant of some sort to insulate that building and maybe do some of their interior storm windows for the windows.
Or the park.
Um,
That gives
so
you
that-
two options.
'Cause you
Well,
can
so
probably spray
I've been to
that.
the park committee, I've asked them, and they're pretty much funding the golf course renovation. So they're $9,000 to $10,000, guaranteed 9,000, and possibly a little more. Along with that, Joe has been working on the permit. We're also working on getting everything together for the 4 new, holes to be redone. So that's coming right up, and we're gonna ask Mark for a dump truck to go get the sand and stuff that we need. And then the sod and stuff, we'll get that here. A couple other things that go along with that is the greens mower that we have right now is not the right greens mower for these holes. But Willie had a gentleman there the other day, Joe sent him down, to look at ours, and for the one that we need, which would be a little wider, has 8 blades versus 16 or 20 or something like that on the rotary cutter. He's pretty much it's gonna be a wash.
We could
Like a
trade.
trade.
So basically trade them out for even.
And would that new specialized pumper only be used on greens?
That is specifically for
Greens
greens.
mower.
It's a greens
So
mower.
he has a greens mower,
He
but
has
it's not
one.
as good as it
But
should
what it
be.
has is it has like 20 blades on it,
Seven.
rotated.
Bent
And
grass, right? And we're switching to.
yeah, we're
something
going
else.
to a bluegrass.
Bluegrass,
And-
and that's for bent grass, which is a
Yeah.
really fine,
Yeah,
tight
so-
grass.
That would be pretty much a wash right there. We also have like 20 pylons down there, concrete pylons, that Nick had bought when we were gonna do the signs and paint those on there.
I think they were originally bought for the playground.
Well,
What he
okay,
told me.
so in any
Well,
event,
anyways.
we don't need them. It's like $1,500 worth of concrete piers down there right now.
What,
So I believe Nick is on. I don't know if he wants to chime in.
No, that's his
No, that's
computer
Oh,
over
okay,
there.
okay.
but are you, you're not
Now
talking
he's on.
about Jersey barriers?
No, no,
Yeah,
they're
the-
concrete piers, the concrete piers, and they were gonna mount the playground equipment. That's what it was, Mark. Mount the playground equipment to it, but.
I don't know how tall they are, but
They're 4 foot tall.
they're a base, and then they go a real sharp pyramid in the flat top of the iron.
Oh, and they were gonna, something was gonna be
That's what they were-
mounted, but you didn't end up
They did
needing.
not
it.
use them because
Okay.
they
And
set the
there's no-
post in the ground and
And,
so on and so forth,
and
so.
you can't see any need for them.
There is no need
Anything.
for them down.
And can you?
So
can
if
you
we
unload
take
them?
those back, send them back to RK Miles, get a
Okay.
refund back on them.
Okay,
Then that would be more money to go back to the
Might.
golf course.
No.
Or,
I was just
But if
gonna
we
say,
did- if we did, it would, you
are they
know-
gonna need pylons for this?
No, that will serve that purpose,
Okay.
because they're 4 feet tall, and when they're
Oh, okay.
finished, there's that much sticking out of the ground.
Yeah, that will.
We're not gonna dig up the parking lot to put those in.
Yeah,
So-
no, 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 okay. Yeah, we
Um,
should return them if we
so in
can.
any event,
I think Miles will take them back.
the golf course, we're between what the park committee is giving us, what we can swap out, if we send this back, we can pretty much have the upgrades to the golf course paid for. Without any.
and swap out the machine, get the right
Yep,
kind of machine.
yep. So then that leaves us, that puts us really good in with the playground, with the golf course, and the building.
So, and I know
Pretty
we
much
spent,
everything
like,
pretty good.
Considerable amount of money heating that for the period of time we
Yes.
need to heat it because it's all open
Everything's-
up above.
And they
It's
had to
like-
leave all the attic areas
So
open,
the
so the
pipes
heat would
didn't
get up there.
freeze.
Correct.
So would that insulation just be like rock salt batting or would they
That's
spray it?
what I
Or,
don't know what the best solution would, it has a vent on either end, so it's gonna vent itself.
yeah,
But if we can get the ceiling vented.
it's almost like
or
you just put
insulated,
rock salt
then-
bats in there and.
Yeah,
or
Yeah, I would use
29.
rock, I
Yeah.
would use rock, well, not spray.
Yeah,
The
the,
spray will
Yeah,
condensate, and then
the
Yep.
rock wall
rot
and
the
the
roof rafters fast.
mice and stuff don't like that rock
no, they
wall.
don't like that.
I think it would be
That's
worth
easy to put
asking
up.
the
It's not a
energy
big job.
committee
If they-
for a grant. We could probably put it up with our labor to lay it in there,
Yeah.
right, with town labor?
Well,
So-
the one thing is we have the municipal energy resilience grant that's gonna be, doing energy efficiency installation at the town garage and in this
Mhm.
building. We already have that. And I don't know if there's another round of those coming up. I can check with the energy committee about, any ideas. I guess one question would be, what is the timeline of this? I'm actually getting kind of confused because I remember Glenn talking about the wash pad too. So I feel like I've got a lot of stuff
That's a
going on. That's a step, but there was timing issues I thought about when we did what. So
Yeah.
Jamie, you're talking about the electrical connected to the playground.
Yes.
And then we're talking about repairs to the
To the
building
itself.
that has the restrooms and the office in it.
Mhm.
And moving the pipes and
Down into the
insulate
heated
down
area.
into the heated
And then
area
insulating.
and then insulating the attic.
Attic area.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
And then Glenn has.
That's not really gonna
splash pad
affect what
and
we have to
the-
do.
Right, other than
And
digging out.
didn't we
for
already
the
like
walkway.
authorize?
Yeah.
That's
You already
ARPA-
authorized
ARPA
it,
money.
That's
yeah.
ARPA money, that's
Yeah.
already been.
Yeah.
I
Um,
would say timing wise, if you can do it September, no later than.
I would
October 1st,
say,
you
yeah,
probably
like,
do that.
I'd like to get my part done, and so the bathrooms can be up going by, I mean, soccer starts this year, August 18th, so.
Yeah.
I'd like to have my part done by the end of July.
how many square feet is that?
Okay,
Building
so
footprint.
the maintenance for the park buildings, it has
500 maybe?
5,000 in it.
5,000.
5,000 is in the maintenance line, and I don't know if part of that is, no, that's ARPA money you just said. So 5,000 is in the park building maintenance line. So that would cover both of those things. And if, Randy didn't have to dig the ditch,
Right.
then it would be a little
Right.
bit lower.
And then, just
The
rough,
building's probably 500 square feet.
yeah, just
Yeah.
roughly,
Not very
you're
much.
probably like $1,200 for our 23 Rockwool for that, about that square footage to cover that. It's something that we can think about. I mean, we have some time and I would say even maybe like Willie Parkway could lay that in up.
Yeah.
You know, and just before
It's,
fall.
it's easy handling, it's not,
Not like
Doesn't-
fiberglass.
just
It's not like fiberglass
It's
or
not
anything,
like
it's a
fiberglass
mineral
at
wool,
all.
so it,
I put a lot of.
That would just keep us from, because we use electric heat there, right? So
Yeah.
it's just like
But
pouring
we're
out.
still
the-
gonna, but we're gonna be shutting that down in the
So
winter anyway.
this would allow us to go until probably December
Right,
Yeah.
before we have to shut it down.
Right.
Shut it down for the coldest
Flush
months
the
Right.
lines.
Yeah.
into the end of March or whatever.
Blow
and
out the
then-
water lines.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, soccer goes
First week of November.
Into
so
November.
first week in
You
November, so we really. need
certainly wanna
something.
have it open through November.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we need to have it robust enough, and you wanna be able to open it in April, pretty
Right.
much. So,
Yeah.
so we need to have it robust enough to tolerate that, but it makes no sense to me to try to keep it open and heat it during the worst months.
No.
It doesn't make
January,
any sense.
February,
No.
early March.
It wouldn't get
by
much
far
use
the-
No, it
anyways.
wouldn't.
and you
It
have to-
wouldn't, so,
November to May.
One freeze up and you're,
so what,
You're
so,
You're redoing the whole thing.
so what do we need?
so I need to know, approval wise, what we're able to do is from the board as far as Randy, as far as John. And the golf course, we're pretty well set on. We're gonna be really close to that with the money that the park committee is coming. We do still have the partitions to put in and stuff, so I'm gonna go down, spend a couple hours with Willie getting him started on that. They're pretty simple.
So do we have a proposal on the greens mower?
Not yet. The gentleman was there just the other day,
Okay.
looking it over. He was gonna get us a proposal
So we
back.
have to wait on
We have to
that.
But
wait
we
on
can,
that.
but we can approve that concept. I mean, we
Yes.
agree
Yeah.
on that
Yeah.
concept. So it was John Bushy?
John Bashy,
John Bushy
The
for
plumbing.
the plumbing, that
The
was in
plumbing.
1935, to
Yeah.
move the
Mhm.
pipes. And then Randy was the 2980 to do all the electricity, and it might be less than,
correct.
Tell
So-
him we'll have Mark do the
The digging.
right?
And then just whatever he had in for digging, he can deduct that,
Yeah.
and give us a final
Yep.
So,
proposal.
so how about if I made a motion to approve the work at the park of, moving the pipes in the facilities building for an amount not to exceed $1,935 for Mr. Bushy, and to do the electrical work for the playground, an amount not to exceed $2,980 for Mr. Novotny, subject to reductions based on how
Us doing the
excavation
digging.
proceeds,
Yeah.
something like that.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Cynthia made a motion to approve the, plumbing work by Bashid, $1,935.
1935?
And the, electrical by Randy Botany, not to exceed 2980,
80.
with reduction for us doing the digging. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Well, and maybe depending on what I'll be interested in what the reduction is
Yeah.
from the digging, because that might cover most of our insulation.
It might,
Yeah.
it might.
And I have something about the playground, and I just want to do it. I know you may more have Jamie, Jamie, but I'm afraid I'm going to forget. I don't know if it was here or a discussion in the hallway or something, but I remember people asking me about what is the status of the playground grant, because we have to finish that grant before we can go to any other grant. That's what I have in my head. I have no idea who was asking me about that.
That was me.
It was you.
There's, we got a playground grant that we needed to close out once the mulch was down.
Yes.
And that
And
was
that's now
through
done.
the
And is that with
VLC, the PL, what was that, Brian?
VLCT.
VLCT.
It was
VLCT.
VLCT.
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
and because once we complete and close out that grant, then we can apply for
A
the
fire
grant for
department
the
grant.
fire department.
And that's from VLCT?
Yes.
From all
Yeah.
these cities and
Yeah.
towns?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do
The
have
safety
some,
grant thing.
a safety grant.
Safety
Safety
grant, that was
grant.
it.
Okay, all right, because I did see something about that and it just, it was not making sense to me. So, I do not know if that's been done, if it's been closed out, I don't know. So, I'm gonna have to look further in the
Mhm.
paperwork and possibly contact the person that Nick had written down, because I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
find a playground grant. I can't
It
find
was a
any
safety
information
grant.
about that.
And it was for the rec.
Yeah, I know, but I
Yeah.
can't find any digital
gotcha.
file or any paperwork on the actual grant. Now, that just may mean I just haven't found it yet, because Nick filed
Yeah.
things differently than I might, but
But okay, that helps. So I need to verify about the status of that
Yeah.
grant so that we can apply
Because
for
I
it.
want to apply
You might
for
know
fire
right.
department.
Okay, that's fine. That helps me a lot. That's good. Thank you.
It's been a few years. Yeah,
That
oh, yeah.
grant's been-
That's-
Yeah, because it flips every other
Two or
year.
3
One
years.
year the town, like highway or park gets it for safety gear and stuff like that. And then the next year it would flip to the fire department, which is the way Nick explained
We
it to
bought
me.
some road signs with it.
Mhm.
Okay.
So-
The
All right,
only
so
trick
I'll
is
try
you
to-
can't buy the same thing twice with the grant. So
Okay.
like you can't buy vests
Over and over.
over and over
Yeah.
again. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'll try to figure that out. Okay, Jamie, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
the
just
only
need to-
other thing that I had with the park, Willie just wanted to say, thank you, to James Hawley for donating his roller. He used it down there on all the other greens and got everything down to where it was supposed to be. He just wanted to thank him
And
for
Willie,
that.
Willie came and Janet ordered him a big calendar, like a wall size
Oh, yeah.
calendar. And he got permit forms, and as you see, because we had this permit, he is dealing with permits, and so
Did he get into his email?
he did get into his email.
Good. Okay.
And I still think cell phone is a better way to get him, but he did get into his email,
Okay,
so I will
perfect.
probably be calling him and saying, Willie, I sent you an email.
Yep, I sent him a text and said I reset your password and he gave me the information, so I didn't hear back from him.
No, he
so I
was
thought
here
got
in the building, and Janet kind of helped him, and, my
Yeah.
understanding is he did get in, so.
Good.
So thank you, Matt, for that. Okay, so, Dan, I just wonder if, since we do have people here who are interested in Blue Black Road, I wonder if maybe we could, skip ahead to that,
We
because
can
I
do
know
that.
that particularly the town hall telephone, that might take us a little while to chew on that,
So
so.
let's do that. Let's move to
Okay, so let me just get the map.
The marketing update. Let's cover that.
the.
Supposed to cover that.
Come closer.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so,
I got enough to do.
so I'll just,
I'm worried about another day, but-
I'll just give a little summary of where we are with this. This is not a formal hearing on this. This is just a check-in with the board. Dan Harvey and I met with Keith Squires because there was that issue about what was the basis for why he drew the road as he drew it and why it's that way on our records and on the state's records. And of course, the Bowman Company was saying it should be in some other place. And so Keith referred us to John Wright, whose name was written on the map. John Wright actually, and Keith said there's been a lot of confusion about where that road is. And part of it is because Gleeblatt Road, as we know it now, was called Gleeblatt Road, whereas it may not actually be what used to be called Gleeblatt Road. So there's just some unfortunate confusion there. But I contacted Mr. Wright, and he said he had never done a formal survey until 2024, and I have his formal survey filed in 2024. So it is actually not clear to me whether Keith had a conversation with him or, or whether it was really Dave Mance or what actually happened back in 2007. However, on the 2024 map, he refers to all the deeds and the 1817 and everything, and he puts the road on this new survey by Mr. Wright. He puts the road where Keith Squires has it, where the town has it, and where the state has it. And he has notations of the deeds that he's working from. The land use administrator, Joan Nash, who I believe you will have gotten a packet from her. She went and looked at all this material, and I believe I'll have to go back and read what she said. I believe she looked at all the deeds too, and she certainly could do it again. Robin and I can do it again. I have not looked at the deeds personally,
The
but
packet was well put
she
together.
was really, really good. So, so my position, just as one board member, but having done some of this research, is that based on what I see, I don't see a basis for altering where we have the Gleeblatt Road, so-called right of way, going straight across, not going down to our current private road, Gleeblatt Road, not jogging
Gleeblatt
down.
Roads, the confusion is
Yes,
Leave Lot Road should not be confused with where it actually is with the private Leave
Leave
Lot
Road.
sign.
Right, right,
Sign
Yes.
road.
right.
And that's where this confusion
That's
is.
right. And I think that the strongest thing, and this is something that, that Joan Ash, who, by the way, I was really impressed with her research skills. The
Yeah.
point that she made, which is that the presentation by the Bowman Company was basically saying, look, this looks like a road on the LiDAR. That must be the right of way. Of course it looks like a road. There's been work done on it. That has nothing to do with where the right of way is. And the right of way may be in place where the road doesn't show. It actually goes through part of somebody's porch or something right now because of the way things have happened. But the fact that it looks like there's a road there doesn't mean that's where the right of way. It's actually not evidence. Even the thing that they did that their right of way was a better foot match. I mean, they had something about 137, I don't know, that better match. I just don't, it doesn't rise to the
Leave
level.
Lot sign does not make it so.
And looking like a road from space doesn't make it the right
Not
of way.
necessarily.
So I'm not saying that there isn't some unfortunate confusion, and I don't deny, obviously, the evidence of the LiDAR, but based on this survey, I don't see anything that rises to the level that would lead me to support the town altering where the quote unquote town road, Gleeblatt Road, right of way is going across, not the private Gleeblatt Road. So to me, as I read the statute, you only have to have a hearing if you are altering the road.
Correct.
Right.
If the board decided not to alter the road, we actually would not have to have a hearing if I'm reading the statute correctly. And it still might make sense, depending on what the board decides, to bring this up in another meeting and invite, I mean, the Gardners are here today, but we might want to invite the other abutters, invite Bowman. I actually got an email from Bowman right before the meeting saying what's going on, you know? So I think we might want to,
I think we should make a formal, invite them and then make
Invite
a
them
formal
and
decision.
it doesn't, but I don't think it has to be a hearing.
It does
Because
not.
if we're not changing it, but again,
Right.
I'm not making this decision, you guys are making this decision. But Dan, is that a fair presentation of?
Real accurate, based on our conversations. We're basically saying the road is where we say it was on the maps.
And nothing that
And
we've
nothing
seen
that we've
justifies
seen
changing it.
justifies changing. it.
Yeah.
And I haven't personally researched the deeds, but I trust the work that Joan Nash has done
Yeah,
and
and
that
Nance
everybody.
And also,
has
and I
really
mean, John
looked
Wright,
through.
and this is
And John Wright's
not
really
LiDAR, he went to
reputable.
all the deeds.
Yeah.
And I believe he's been on the ground, I
Yeah.
mean, he's like marked
He has, he
everything.
knows.
And he's got notes saying exactly what's going on, I mean,
The
it's
deed
really
is the
thorough.
final
The final.
Yeah.
Final
Yeah.
record.
Yeah.
That's the legal.
The preponderance of the evidence, which is the way I'm looking at Jones' research. The preponderance of the evidence leads us to believe we have it right.
Right, and I still don't quite understand exactly what Mr. Squires was basing things on back in 2007 or back in, you know, I don't know if he went and looked at the deeds, he couldn't remember, you know, so I'm not
The
saying,
writing on the map was
Yeah.
refreshing his memory.
that's right, and I'm not saying everything is absolutely perfect, but this is so solid that even if we don't have all the documentation from back then, this is so solid that I think it justifies resting.
And the
where
deed
we
is
are.
the authority of
The
record.
deed is the authority,
Deed is
and
the
John
authority.
Wright went and looked at it, and Joe Nash went and looked at it, and we can, you know, I can go and look at it before the next meeting. I agree with you, I think that the issue probably justifies putting it on the
I think
agenda
so.
again, but, you know, it's up to you guys, how you wanna proceed.
I'm gonna ask the gardeners, do you have anything you wanna ask or ask?
So which map have you got? What did he show you?
You can lay that right out here.
This is a survey from John Wright.
Yeah.
Of the Holtzman property. And so you can see down here, I think it is what, and this is where he shows going straight across and not going down there.
Right, and this is what you agree with?
This is,
Yeah.
this supports
Coming
what
right
we
off
have,
Raven Rock.
coming right off from
Right
Raven
off
Rock,
Raven Rock.
and he has the notes of all, you know, of why he put it there, and all the deeds and everything like that. I mean, it's just,
He cross-analyzed all the
Yeah.
descriptions.
I mean, we knew that he
That's
was
where
up in there. They were up in there
Yeah,
surveying.
and so I feel that this is just much stronger than the LiDAR because.
That moment,
you
I
know,
think that's just a bunch of hocus
Well,
pocus.
it's not that it's nothing, it's just not enough, you know,
Well,
because
I mean,
if somebody's been logging, of course it looks like a road.
That's no more than putting a GPS coordinates in here and putting one in there and okay, now we gotta connect them all.
Yeah, so, you know, but, you know, I think that it makes sense to have another meeting, and let everybody come and we could have another discussion, and I think it would make sense to notify everybody, but I don't think it has to be here.
Yeah.
Because we're not
changing anything that I can see.
Yeah.
At least there's no compelling reason that I've seen so far that changes anything.
Yeah, because our deed
Yeah.
doesn't state any right of ways
Yeah.
for anybody to go up through there.
Neither one.
And I've
Right,
looked
the
at
fact it
everybody's
says glebe
deed.
lot private, does not mean it's the glebe lot road that we access.
Right.
But apparently, public rights of way don't always show up on deeds.
No, they don't.
But the thing is, we have another place where it is, you know, so,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know, it's, I mean,
We
that's
have
the,
cross,
and typically the
Cross-checking
deed would
information.
refer to another document if there was a
Yes,
public
there was.
right of way that.
but it's like
To
the stuff that's in the records, it's like where John Wright puts it going straight across to Raven Rock, it's a deeded right of way. It's in the
Mhm.
deeds, you know, and
Okay.
so you would expect
Correct.
that it would be in your deeds if that was the case.
Right.
So it's not in your deeds and it's in this other place, so that's kind of what we have to go
what it
with.
boils down to is we say where the road is. And then they have to adjust whatever they have to adjust to do what they want to do.
Right.
And if that means buying land or whatever they gotta do, but we're not changing that right away
I just don't
to make it
see,
easier for them.
I don't see any basis for doing that, and
I
we
see
can't
none.
just do things in a.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, so I will, put this on the agenda for our next meeting, and I will, take steps to notify the interested
Interested
parties.
parties,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so,
I hope I didn't overdo it with my,
no, we all got.
That was
very
no, we
nice,
all
thank
got
you.
copies.
Oh,
Fine.
that's fine. That
Good
was
to have.
informative.
We wanna get your input.
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, we can do that.
What's that?
License.
Yeah, that's right here.
That's the one.
Okay, so
This is,
Yeah.
yeah, clean tobacco license.
So we did that.
I'll let you know about the.
We didn't formalize it.
Thank you for coming in.
I'll make a
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
motion, I'll make a motion to approve the tobacco license for Chem Clean Center on Route 313 as presented.
Second,
Motion made by Matt and seconded by Cynthia to approve the tobacco license for Chem Clean Center LLC. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye.
aye. That is approved. Just want to check it. It's
Yeah.
approved on it.
Yep.
It's only verbal approval.
Right.
Item 5.5 cemetery, dead trees, digitization of records.
Okay,
Project update.
okay, so we can take off the digitate. I can't.
Digitization.
I haven't drank anything, really.
Cinco de
Digitization.
Mayo too, you didn't have margaritas?
No.
We should have brought them here.
So,
At least it wasn't April 20th.
so that there was a question about, how fast that was going or the funding lines, but it got all straightened out with Robin and Janet and Christian. And if those three ladies say it's all straightened out, I'm not touching
So
it.
we're crossing that.
So we're crossing that one out. So there are 2 dead trees at the cemetery. And Mark can fill us in about them, but one of them isn't too big, the other one's bigger. And they're on the
West
They're in the
Arlington.
West
The
Arlington
West Arlington
Cemetery.
Cemetery.
So as you're traveling west on 313, it's the first entrance you come to.
Okay.
And the east entrance, there's a little brook that runs down through
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
culvert underneath
Mhm.
underneath 313. There's one small one that would be simple, easy to take down. But then there's another one it's an ash tree, it's dead, and it's probably about that big around. And it goes right up and it hangs right toward the cemetery. So
And
there's
it's out
no,
of, it's out of the highway, right?
it's out of the highway.
It's not our
It's-
highway.
Right, out of,
but-
it's out of the state right away, I believe.
So we don't have to get permission to take it down.
No,
No, and it's nothing that I wanna tackle because it's not, it's so dead, there's no controlling it.
Right.
It's gonna need to come down from the top down. This all started with, Natalie Kaler stopped and saw me. Jay Coonrad had mentioned it to her. He put some ribbons around the two of them. He's just afraid that with a good sized windstorm, it's gonna end up smashing some headstones. And that was her concern as well. So she asked me to stop and look at them and I did. And like I said, if it was something that had a little bit of life in it that we can control, we could take it down with a wedge. If it was still alive, you could put it right down through that brook. But I wouldn't even attempt to
It
take
could be
it.
running right down through.
Oh, it's dead. All the way
It
through.
could
and
fall apart in unpredictable ways.
Well,
So I
don't
think
those
Marcus-
ash trees snap when they're dead?
They get brittle. They do get
Brittle. Yeah.
So I think Mark is right to be cautious. My only thought was, would it make sense to wait until we have a couple of other trees and then go out and hire, I don't know if we have to go to bid or go hire somebody.
So how does this work? This comes out of the cemetery?
I don't even know. I don't even know.
We
I
might
can
be-
answer that one.
Go ahead.
Yes. Go ahead.
It comes out of the perpetual care fund, so that fund is run through the trustee of public funds, and it's used specifically for the maintenance of the cemetery. So you pay the fee when you buy your plot.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe the best thing to do would be, I didn't look anymore around the cemetery in West Arlington, but maybe just see if there's any other dead trees that need to be taken down. And same time, look at up here on Cemetery Road.
There are limbs across the road that you can see from Cemetery Road right here, that are impeding, that will impede traffic. Traffic
Maybe
cannot
if-
get through the roads.
Incorporate all that together.
Yeah.
Especially if it's coming out of cemetery funding.
Well, the other place we might be able to, Ally, if you want to weigh in on this, we might be able to use the Ashmore Fund.
No.
No, we got rid of it.
Yeah, that's what's
Turned it back in.
ironic that now we've got an
That's right,
ash
now
tree.
we have an Ashmore.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But we couldn't get anybody to bid on all
Right.
that.
It was not
So
viable.
the trustees, perpetual care fund.
So I think that if there are other trees at that cemetery in particular, or at the other cemetery, ones that really are gonna need to come down, like we don't have to go looking for it,
We
because we
should do
don't
it all
want
at
it to.
once.
But particularly if there are other ones at that one, because then you're going to one thing, the guy's taking care of whatever it is. And if we got, a bid that sort of was like, okay, if I just do those 2 trees, this is what it is. And if I do those other 3 trees, this is what it is. And then we could take it back to the trustees and to
Yeah.
Natalie and.
Yeah, because they have to
Susan.
approve that. We-
Yeah.
Right. So Ally, does that sound like a good plan? Do you want to go forward with the 2 trees right away, or can we look for others to sort of try to get more done?
Let me call Natalie and see what she thinks, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
just in case
Yeah.
there's any others over by the other cemetery.
I didn't overly investigate the trees over here. I didn't go in. I don't
No,
think,
you weren't thinking about it.
I don't think the tree limb that fell, the tree itself needs to come down, but I know with the incredible amount of wind that we've had over the last year or
And
two,
those pine
I didn't
trees
drive
that-
around
Those
either,
pine
so.
trees that are on the top of the bank from the road edge, that line the cemetery, they've got a ton of dead
Yeah,
limbs.
Yeah.
but there is one definitely across the road through the cemetery that would
Well, we don't
impede.
want to be
traffic.
trying to do too much. I mean, you can't
Right.
afford to do
Yeah.
too much at once. But I think,
I will say we do have a lot of money in the perpetual care fund, so we.
oh, don't tell
Don't
us
say
that.
that.
Don't say that.
No, we might be able to work
Never enough.
specifically to get numerous, if we're going to do that and we wanted to get it all done at once, we do have the funds in there. That's what they're there for.
Okay, well, what I think would make sense is, is that, you know, we can proceed in a couple of ways. We can do the thing where we wait into it. We have other things elsewhere in town. We can look at the West Arlington Cemetery and just do whatever needs to be done there.
Yeah.
But if you guys, if the trustees of public funds from the perpetual care will be paying for this, then I think you guys really need to direct us what you want us to do. And so if Natalie would like to, because it would be very unfortunate if that tree fell on the stones and ruined them, and then we would have the cost of repairing them. I just know that there's always a fixed cost of just getting the guys to go there, and I was just trying to be efficient. So I think, to me, looking at what else might need to be done at the West Arlington Cemetery makes a lot of sense. So Ally, can we check on that, and we'll check what Natalie wants to do, and then, you know, go out to bid accordingly?
Absolutely. And on June 29th, we have someone coming to fix the headstones and clean. And there's a lot of organizations helping, so that might be a good time to look at it all and just see. what
Okay.
it- like, while we're
Okay,
down
so we
You
won't
might-
be in, we
You
won't be.
might
in a
want to
hurry.
have those trees down before
Before then.
the 29th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be a good
Yeah.
idea, actually.
Yeah, I'd have them down and out of there.
So I'll call
clean.
Natalie and we'll get together a meeting and then we'll go to the trustee of public funds and come back to you guys. I think
Yeah.
that's.
Okay, but I think the select board is willing it sounds like we're willing to proceed either
Yeah.
with just those two trees or with more than those
Yeah.
two trees.
Work on both
And we-
cemeteries and.
Right, and
Clean them
if
all.
we need to, we could act, well, June 29th. There's a ways, we've got another meeting, we've got other meetings.
We need
before
another
then,
meeting, but
so-
we should have quotes for the next
Yes,
meeting to
yes.
present to them.
Yes.
Make sure that we
So-
get all the approvals, so.
So Ally, let's you and me and be in touch, and Natalie, and so that we know, how to proceed.
Sounds good.
Excellent, thank you, madam.
Ally.
If you guys, however you want to proceed and then get the quotes for the next meeting.
Yeah.
And Mark, if you can eyeball some of the trees down there.
If I get west again in the next couple of days, I'll try it through there and see if there's any others that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, moving right along, 6.1, town hall telephone and internet issues.
I read the memo that Jane sent, and I had totally forgotten that we were on this really old program here at Town Hall,
Yeah.
that it sparked my memory that was, I think that came here like when they first rolled that out, back when it was like
Oh,
at
okay.
Delphia or somebody, like way back when.
It was in the 90s,
Yeah, like I had just moved to Vermont when we got
maybe early 2000s.
early 2000s, like 99, 2000. Everything in Janet's memo made sense to me. I do wonder why we're paying for TV.
No, we
Or
definitely
road.
wanna, I mean, everybody's on their phones now. That goes back to
Yeah.
what everybody.
We don't
does on
Yeah,
their phone.
yeah, they wanted
I
the
don't
Weather
think-
Channel or something.
I don't think we need TV, at the.
I'll tell you right now, you sit in a firehouse for 9 hours with nothing to do, you're gonna want TV.
Bring
Yeah,
a
but-
book, bring a book.
Everybody has.
$100
Because it's not just us, we don't have good internet down there, we don't have good.
Well, we
service.
will have, this is, so this
I'm telling you right
proposal
now.
is to move
We've got
to,
mutual aid departments in there.
I could give you an example. So the Chunk Brook fire wasn't working because Nick had to put a code in and it hadn't worked. And the mutual aid department complained. They sat there for 9.5 hours with zero to do. Zero.
we can work that out over streaming, that, it's not a big deal,
And we have TVs in other places in town that shouldn't have TVs. I mean,
So,
I'm telling you, you take something away from your firefighters like that, that's the one thing that they can actually sit there and watch, and when they're on a mutual aid standby or whatever, I think
we can
that's.
work that out and make sure that they have television.
Mhm.
I think if we get, Fidium, it's consolidated communications, it's, I understand that Ron's going to Comcast to see if they can come close. May or may not be able to do that. But probably in at least, definitely down on Burwell, that's gonna be a better service based on distances and our historical, glass is, much more reliable.
Yeah.
All of this made sense to me. My only question would be, what is the service level agreement if we were to go with Fidium, like so if there's an outage, what's their service level agreement for repair? Is it a 4 hour to repair? What's the credit structure look like if it's out for more than 7 or 8 hours? Because it is a business account, so they should really have those service level agreements. And it should apply if we bundle 5 buildings together. I think it's a better value. Also, Janet noted that, we're paying 109 for the POTS line for the fire alarm here today. And I know that cost will continue to go up because it's copper and they don't want to support copper anymore. Consolidated won't, but it's a considerable savings of almost $85 a month probably to move it onto a POTS line off the fiber optic cable. So it makes sense to me.
I'm very concerned about switching. I understand the money as Janet lays it out. And by the way, she did a significant amount of work on this with Ron, and he did a lot of work, and, kudos to both of them. I just get very nervous when we switch things because it seems like we don't always get what we thought we were gonna get. And because we're always layering onto inherited systems, sometimes things don't match. I mean, like the very fact that we had this problem with the phones because we had some sort of fixture that was designed for residential service. So of course it couldn't serve 6 lines. And we've been having problems with the phones for so long, and it turns out it was that, not the phones. So that in itself is a matter of frustration for me. And so I'm just concerned that we pull this massive switch, we're gonna have problems. So if you guys want to do this, I understand the numbers and saving money for the taxpayers, but it's very important to me that Ron from E&Able or somebody is gonna be here to ride herd on this and make
Well, it
sure,
has to
because
be-
I'm not competent to do that. I mean, I can let people
Ron
in. I
has
can
to
show
be
them
here, or somebody has to be
I mean,
here.
but you
Ron
have
needs
a
to be
job. You
here
have a
to
job.
really make the configuration change on the firewall when the cutover happens. That's normal. If somebody would have done the initial analysis and knew that we had 300 down, 25 up, and if you're using the G711 codec on the phones, you don't have enough bandwidth on your upstream to send voice back. So going to 1,000 down, 1,000 up is going to solve a lot of your problems and also increase performance for cloud-based services. As a telecommunications manager for 30 years, these are very standard switches. This is the core access to the modern day network, if you will. So there's nothing here in the building hardware wise, because that's all been upgraded within the last.
Wires, the cables, it's just a.
It's not a wire cable. It's really gonna be the firewall here, which I know Ron upgraded shortly before we went during the pandemic. We did that upgrade. Remember, Dan? Because we switched to VoIP and got all of that.
We had to upgrade from 84.
Yeah, so that was right during
And this should have
COVID.
been upgraded, this should have been adjusted.
Not
to-
necessarily, because we were using G729 then, but they're using a different codec on these phones, which requires more bandwidth. It is
Okay.
better quality, but it requires more bandwidth. So, and I think you added a few phones maybe somewhere along the line. So, this makes sense. There's also more reliance on cloud-based services now.
Yeah.
So you're going to OneDrive and everything. So there's a
Yeah.
lot more data transfer than when we first made the switch during the pandemic. We still had a server downstairs.
Right, we didn't
Remember,
have
we
the
were
cloud.
storing
Right,
everything
right,
locally.
right,
So
right.
the evolution
Right.
of technology,
You just need the up and
we
down.
haven't
The evolution
kept
is
up
rapid.
with the access.
Okay,
So here we're simply switching the access, which makes 100% sense. We will have to pay Ron to come out, and there'll be a vendor meet. So when they come to do the installation, there will be a vendor meet with Ron. He'll make the configuration changes on the firewall. They'll physically move the cable. There'll be a short 30 to 1 hour outage. during that, if you do it during regular business hours or you choose to do it after, depending, and then you should be good to go. And that'll be the case at each of the building locations. So Ron will have to go to each of those locations to make that switch.
I concur with Ron making these recommendations. The only one thing I will say as a caveat, streaming is where everything's heading. We can kind of anticipate that a little bit, fine. Doesn't have to be Roku. There's other
It could
streaming
be, you
services.
use Apple TV or anything
Yeah,
there.
Apple TV. I actually happen to have gone through all of this a year ago with my cable. I did the cable, kept the internet, did streaming, and over a 2-year period, saved myself $3,000.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth doing. You just have to understand the limitations, and there is going to be differences between the streaming platforms and cable TV. Because it's not live cable TV. It's, you have live TV on those streaming platforms, but it's just, you gotta get your mind
The
around how
traditional-
to do it.
The traditional cable TV delivery methods that Comcast uses, or Spectrum, or whoever the carrier might be, Cox, are all going away because they're not
Right.
managing that infrastructure. So that cost is going to continue to go up, or they will just force you off of it
Yeah.
because they're not maintaining that infrastructure. And even if you buy, quote, cable TV as a new customer
You're
today,
still gonna get a
it's
streaming
just
service.
streaming. They just give you a box that basically streams it
The
on the back
streaming that
end.
I have with Comcast is Zumo.
Yeah, and it's, so
Okay.
that's basically how they do it
So-
moving forward, lower cost of ownership.
So we have Town Hall, Town Garage, East Arlington Firehouse, West Arlington Firehouse, and Water Department. Is that the pump house?
That's at the pump house.
That's what I
yes.
thought. Okay.
Yep.
So, so it sounds like you guys wanna move in the direction of the Fidium option, subject to finding out about the service.
Yep, and what's our commitment? Is it a 1-year commitment, or is there a multi-year commitment price lock?
Yeah, I can contact Ron again. Well, actually, he's coming back Wednesday because our scanners don't work anymore, which is another new issue that just developed today.
So much fun.
Yeah. Apparently, we're locked out because Microsoft doesn't play with whoever is the third party to our scanners. And the third party is requiring something that Microsoft won't give. I'm not really clear on it. Ron was having an awful time with it. It was more than he could deal with today, and he has to come back Wednesday. But anyway, he is still waiting to hear back from Comcast. They have so far not countered with anything at all, let alone close to what Fidium can offer. But he was also going to check with them to make sure we weren't locked in to a certain number of years at some point.
Oh, yeah.
That he might have
Oh.
signed on for. And also, I could have him check about the Fidium contract or, commitment.
Yeah, get
level.
a sample contract from them, and I'm trying to remember, I think because we installed, I think I was on the board the last time we installed that service at the pump house. So that was probably 4 or 5 years ago, so there really shouldn't, it should be all month to month, but that would be really good to verify that.
So, so it sounds like the sense of the board is to move in the Fidium direction. We need to clarify some of these questions about pricing, commitment, service, credits, that kind of stuff.
Service level agreement.
We need to check if we're locked in a multi-year Comcast contract, because I
I
don't,
know at the town shed that we've only had it up there about a little over 2 years.
I know, but we don't know if we're locked in for.
Right, and that's why I just mentioned.
We
No, I
should have a
appreciate that.
copy of the contract
Yeah,
somewhere. if we
yeah,
signed
so-
it.
So what I would suggest is that, Janet, continue to be the lead person on this, and I will support her to the best of my poor abilities. And, but that when we do the switch, we will have to do some sort of really big coordination in
It
terms of
is a
going here,
coordination. I can
here,
help
here,
with
here.
the coordination.
And we'll work with Ron, and we'll work with there's nothing at the park though.
There's
nothing-
nothing at the
There's
park.
just
We would
Wi-Fi,
actually
public
love
Wi-Fi.
to get service at the building at the park. Would be really good, but we haven't found a way
Why?
to do that.
Why?
It would be nice to have service there to be able to offer Wi-Fi and stuff.
So right now, you just have whatever cell phone towers are.
It's just cellular, there's
There's no
no, because we
hotspot or
only have
anything.
copper cable out to that building at the park. I don't know if that's something that Fidium would consider putting fiber in. They could actually pull the copper out of that, but I don't know if the conduit's crushed.
I think
in
let's
it.
just like stick
We
with.
should stick with what we
the
have, but I'm
essentials,
just
the
saying that down the
It's something
road,
to
it would
think
be
about.
really
It's something to
like,
think about, because all God's children gotta be.
we could
gotta
use
be-
that as a
I know when
negotiating
we
tactic.
first connected with, Xfinity, there was, I think they offered two, maybe it was Town Hall in here, maybe it was Firehouse in one of them. I think they offered two public access for free.
Yeah,
we used to get.
Yeah.
So at the firehouses, so Janet gave me the 430 numbers, I think they were. But we have two lines at each station because of our fire alarms.
Correct.
Yeah. And with the town, with the process of us trying to move the buildings and all that, are you looking at taking over the other lines? Because the 2323 has been our fire line forever. Like, that number is straight across the board, been with the fire department.
That one may not
Forever.
change at all.
But, so
No,
we have
told
that-
Ron we told Ron we'd have to keep our numbers.
Yeah,
Because our
that's not
numbers
a
are
problem.
publicized everywhere.
But I
So
think
they
I-
would port over even with Fidium. And
Most
he
of them
would,
are
he would
portability.
work, he would work with Comcast to facilitate that, if we did go with Fidium. He knows we have to have that.
I think as a protection, we are the ones that pay for the 2323 and the 2383 or whatever it is at West.
Well, 2383 came out of West when the new phone line went in.
All right.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know what you guys doing this, if you should be in connection with the protection, so we get that switch. On the other hand, on telephones is, and I talked to Jamie, I forgot to mention to you guys last meeting, like as far as messages and that stuff, is there, when we do this whole new system, is there a system that you can have voicemails? Because like right now, it's in the office, anybody can walk in, press play, there's notes that say, please don't press play, listen to the messages, don't pass messages. And then
Yeah, I
we
mean,
miss
the
calls.
new VoIP services all come with voicemail on them by default, like that's, and it'll send you an email and everything. I think the fire department lines and everything, those come into play when we actually take over, you know, when all of that paperwork gets done. And to Janet's point, local number portability lets us move those. Those are all things that we can plan for without
Yeah, I just didn't
problem.
know if the guy was coming, if you were gonna just plan it all into one, like you're taking the cable out of there, if you're just gonna plan it all into one, so it's one big switch, so we're not doing it.
Well, yeah, we can
4 or
port,
5
we'll
times.
port those, because what they'll do, because the copper lines are with Consolidated and the fiber would be coming basically from Consolidated, that they'll bundle those and just, it's the same number, it just gets moved to a little device and the line comes off of that, off the glass in the building, so super easy, that's never a big deal.
But an important point, to be thinking ahead about.
Yeah.
that. So,
The 2323 we've had for.
yeah.
Yeah, the
You
numbers
guys-
wouldn't
The
change.
difference is that they
We
take
take
the
that,
pain.
that's right.
No, I
Right.
understand that,
Right.
and I think that we should do this transition based on what we currently have with Comcast and get that
Yeah,
settled.
get what we
and then
pay
when
for
we
settled and then
take
we bring the others in.
Ownership of the building, then we can take steps
That's
to
exactly
to
what I was
bring it
gonna
in,
say.
and then
Yeah.
we can do it
When
one
we
step at
actually
a
make the
time.
transfer
But
of
but it's
building.
really
Because
important.
if you look
Think
up
about
Arlington
that.
Fire Department online, right,
Yeah,
that's the number. you
yeah,
get.
no,
You don't
and that
get a
number won't change.
430 number,
It
you
won't
get-
change. It's gonna, the
Right.
number's gonna
You
be
know.
changed.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no reason that the number would need to change.
No.
So Janet, do you think you know where we are?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I've got it.
Okay,
what-
and
I mean,
I've had
at this-
some,
Yeah, I know what to ask for from Ron, and he is also waiting for information from Comcast.
very good. So I have some notes here, so we can talk about it tomorrow.
And
So-
Janet, if you have any specific questions or contract questions, just give me a call.
Great, thank you, Matt.
Okay.
Right, wow. Moving right
So
along.
that moved along the phones, but what about down west at Or is it TV?
We'll
The TV,
make sure you have TV.
I think the sense of the board is that we keep the TV. Based
It won't be
on,
cable, but it'll be.
it'll be
They'll have
a
a
streaming
TV
service.
service. We'll
And it'll
get-
have news and weather and all of the different streaming apps. Now, then the question becomes, do you guys want to have Netflix on there? And you
Well,
know,
that's their own.
that, then you can choose amongst yourselves.
And actually, Janet, we can ask Fidium for Burwell Road because they offer some streaming channels as part of their package. So we can ask them about
See what their basic offering
their
is.
basic television offering is for Burwell Road.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that was basically Ron's suggestion, was to buy
Yeah.
them a smart TV and
Yeah.
switch to streaming, because now all the internet would be updated. And so that would aid in
But
the
I
ease of
think
streaming.
Fidium offers something right out through their service, and then it could all be bundled together, which there may be some advantages to that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna.
Yeah,
have
okay,
to-
I'll ask him about that too.
And then come
Part
back.
one, part two.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and if we needed to have a special board meeting, we can do that, or if we have to wait to finalize it for 2 weeks. The phones, for whatever reason, at least my phone has been a little bit better. I don't know what it's been in the rest of the, but it is true that first thing Monday morning, sometimes is when the phones go out, because everybody's,
Everybody logs
Using
on
it
all
once,
at
yeah. so.
Come on up to the township. It'll ring in, but you can't call out.
Nice.
Been that way since I've been.
Oh, that's crazy. That's not good. Huh, okay, Brave New World. All right.
So I
So
think we are
I don't think I didn't put,
on warrant.
why did I put all other business down at the bottom? I don't know.
That's where it usually is.
Oh, is that where it is? Okay, so
Warrants?
warrants.
Before we go into the.
Okay, so, before we do the first warrant, I just want to note that, the Arlington water truck, which is not that old and doesn't have that much miles on it, began to have problems at, shaking at low RPMs. And so Josh took it, to a repair shop, and it turned out that it had transmission shudder. And so, he had to take it down to Arlington he had to take it down to someplace in Bennington, and they were able to switch out the transmission fluid or do something else. I don't know, and apparently this transmission issue is common with this kind of engine. So Bennington Auto Mall did a transmission flush and used a special fluid formula. And that will be $565. It's not on this warrant. I'm just warning you.
Right.
And then, in the initial checkup that led to finding this, there was a, oil change and stuff like that. That's gonna be 122. But then the big problem is that the brakes will need to be replaced and the tie rods are back. Now, this is 2019. It's only got like 30,000. The tie rods are bad, and I am out of my depth here. Sort of know where the tie rods are. So, I think that if I'm just telling you what is reported to me. So this is Josh's memo. So.
Coming from a board member, we sure.
Yes.
So he has a quote for the brakes and the tie rods, and this wouldn't be done for a couple of weeks based on scheduling repair. It would be 1,200. So there is repair, there is money in the repair line for the water department truck. My recollection is that this total amount will go over that line, like we put 1,500 or 1,200. So we're gonna be somewhat over with those repairs. But once those repairs have been done, the truck should be in good shape going forward. So I don't, again, we don't have these warrants. I just wanted to let you guys know in case you had questions.
Just have for the next meeting, what we're gonna have to overspend that line if it's on.
Yeah. we'll
Yeah,
just
yeah,
authorize it.
yeah.
It needs to be
Okay.
done. It's a safety
Okay.
item.
No, I mean, that's what I think, and if this can get the truck set up,
Yeah,
then, you know,
for sure.
that's good, so. But when you got lots of stuff and lots of vehicles, there's always something going on. All right, so water department warrants, without any of those warrants, we have, gosh, what do we have? Not very much, sample tests, internet, all kinds of stuff like that. I make a motion to approve check warrant report WD 9 dated 5/2/25 for a total of $1,238.44.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie to approve check warrant report number WD 9.
Nine.
Total amount of $1,238.44. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
aye. Motion carries.
All right, the next warrant will be the town of Arlington general operations and we have things like, miles fuel, $7,600, capital tractor for truck maintenance, 2,400, fire department training, 1,600, something or other, and, garage door repair for $1,108. Motion to approve check warrant report number 9 dated 5/2/25 for the town of Arlington. Motion to approve $22,356.35.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Matt to approve check warrant report number 9. Total amount of $22,356.35. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And is there any, executive session?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you do executive session, can I ask that Ally be added in on that too, on the phone call?
Yes.
Yeah, we can, Ally can.
So we
call my
need to
mobile.
establish the reason as a personnel and legal matter.
I'll make a motion that a premature discussion of a personnel and legal matter would cause the municipality to suffer substantial disadvantage.
Second.
Motion made by Matt and seconded by Glenn to establish the reason for the executive session as a personnel and legal matter. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye.
Does, Mark,
Mark, you need
are you
to
in the
stay.
executive session
I'm
for
not.
anything? So it's just Chief Polly? Okay.
Chief Holly and
Ally.
Chief Holly said I can stay in his place, but I don't know.
All right. I'll make a motion to enter into executive session for discussion of personnel and legal matters and to allow Chief Polly and Ally Zayas to remain in the room.
Okay.
Motion made by Matt and seconded by Glenn to enter into said executive session for personnel and legal matter and allow Fire Chief Holly and Ally Zayas to remain in the room. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye. Ally, do you want to call my mobile?
All right, can do.
We don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
right?
Thank you.
we don't even have to leave the room.
No, but
Oh,
she
then
should
I'll
call
bring
my
my
mobile
mobile.
so she's off the
Okay.
thing. And Janet, we'll
Recording
let you know
stopped.
the time.
Okay.
For
Okay,
you.
okay, so then you're done. I'm done, or do you want me to stay on?
No,
Don't
you
worry
can,
about it.
we'll just give you the time we adjourn.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any
I
action.
don't think there's any action to be taken.
Okay, great.
Hey, Ally.
Oh, good.
So,
All right, let's hang this
Gina
up.
needs to be